Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Robin, when you were a young girl and you were coming of age, you were going to start dating and hanging out with boys. Your father probably had some information for you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And do you know how he got to be so smart? Good morning. Good morning. Do you know, hey, Kevin, do you know how he got to be so smart? Because men live in a man's world, right?
Exactly.
And so when we become fathers and we have children, then we warn our children, not just our daughters, by the way. We warn our sons, too, that, hey, there's a crazy world out there. I know I was part of it, and you're going to be part of it, too. But from a woman's perspective, it's just not fair. We are just not nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's maybe a joke in there, but there's also some truth in there. Laura Mattia is on the phone. She's a former senior financial executive for Fortune 500 firms that include M&M and Mars.
Favorite candies.
Two of my favorite planets. Oh, I'm sorry, candies. She's a researcher, an advisor, a professor. I think a professor at South Florida, right? University of South Florida, right?
I think so, yeah.
She's the founder of the Women's Money Empowerment Network. And one of the things in the book that she's going to talk about called Gender on Wall Street, Uncovering Opportunities for Women in Financial Services, is this. And I'm reading this off of the Facebook listing. I'm sorry, the Amazon listing, where it says, the book will help women identify pitfalls, create game plans, and transcend the limitations of their workplace cultures. It's that word cultures. You know what that means? That means that men are, there.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it means. And I don't know.
Sure.
It's just, you got to be careful. And I'm sure her father told her to be careful. Laura, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. The only thing men really know is that men are, you have to be careful. That's all we know. That's our big advice.
I do want to say something about the culture issue. Really, finance, the financial world has always been traditionally a male environment, and women did not participate. Women did not participate as consumers. They did not participate in the ranks of the different firms. And so the culture was developed because women did not participate. It wasn't as, horrible as men specifically, I think, pushing women out. Women just weren't part of it.
Right, right.
So the culture just kind of evolved and really did not consider how women might participate.
But and there's two things. I'm half joking, I guess, in some of the things I said in my opening. But the other half is I just know, and maybe you disagree. Which is fine. I just think there's two parts of a male culture. One of them is just simply, being sloppy. and which has nothing at all with sexism. But then there's a lady in the room. Let's see if I can get her attention. That kind of thing, that little game we play.
Oh, yes. And there's also the aspect that men do tend to be a little bit more competitive, and which is not really how women approach things. So we definitely have different ways of approaching business, and because men don't necessarily see a lot of women in their industry, oftentimes it's just assumed, well, if they're not part of our industry, that must mean that they're not the norm, which means that they're not as good or they're second choice. And so there's a lot of hidden kind of biases and beliefs that are built into that whole idea of, well, they're not here, so they must not really understand this stuff.
But what's very ironic is I was born in 1954, and my dad worked full-time. My mom worked part-time, but my mom was the one that budgeted the money. She budgeted it for the bills and for, the vacations and all of that, and that's where the irony lies.
Yeah.
Robin, though, did she also prepare for the future? Because what we see in the overall empirical work, the research that's been done, is that where women might participate in the budgeting and the spending and maybe even paying the bills and the mortgage, they don't necessarily plan for the future. They're not the ones that are making the decision on, well, how should we invest our 401k or IRA? What do we need to do there? Did she get involved with that?
Well, there was about her savings account. Yeah, about their savings account. She was involved with that. So maybe she wasn't part of the normal woman then of the household.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you had a great role model.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Robin is that way too, by the way. Robin is the go-to person in our relationship when it comes to what should we do? We got an extra $100.
Spend it.
So but I wanted to ask this: does the book help the young lady today entering into that world? Because it seems like the whole world is changing, at least in the Western world, as far as how women and men are able to work together differently than we once upon a time. So everything I said in the opening is probably somewhat antiquated. Hopefully I'm right.
Well, yes and no. The world is changing, although it's really hard to change culture. Culture is the type of thing, and we talk a lot about this concept of unconscious bias. Unconscious bias is the concept that somebody has some bias that is built in their belief system, but they're not even aware that it's there. And we see it over and over again in many different places. And that belief system is really hard to change. I mean, you can go out there and you can tell people how they should behave and whether they should think this or not think that. But ultimately, you can't change people's belief systems. The way to change, I believe, the way to change true beliefs is by women getting out there and showing their stuff and showing that they are competent, they are capable, and they are able to deal with all the things that are thrown at them.
Yeah, that is...
So
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say my objective of this book really is to put the responsibility in the female's hands and say, you know what, there's all this stuff going on over there, this unconscious bias, there are other bad behaviors that are still happening. You need to be aware of that. I don't want you to be blindsided and not be aware of that. Right. But then you also need to know that it has nothing to do with you. So be aware of it and then focus on what you need to focus on to be successful in your career.
And the women also have to dress the part too. I mean, you can't go to the office in jeans and a t-shirt. You have to dress smartly, and I think you get more respect that way.
Absolutely. You need to have all the tools to demonstrate that you are capable. And so that includes dressing the part, that includes speaking the part, that includes making sure that you have your technical skills buttoned up. And by the way, it isn't fair. I'm going to say this right off the bat. It's not fair, but women do have to prove themselves. When they enter in the room, the first assumption is they probably don't know. They're probably not as competent. So you better have your technical skills all buttoned up and make sure that you can answer the questions and be prepared to demonstrate what you know.
So I don't think I disagree with what you said, but I want to tell you what I thought when I was reading the prep material this morning. Here's the way I thought it. And again, I guess I'm looking at it because I'm 63, so I think I'm looking at it from a father's point of view. Is that if you're a woman going into that world, there are going to be men behaving badly, and the sexual innuendos, those kinds of things, they need to clean that up. That's got to be something we don't do anymore as a gender. But as far as being competitive, which is, like you say, a man's thing, I'm with you on that. That's where the women need to say, you know what, I'm not going to consider that an affront on me because he's being competitive, because he's being competitive against the other guys too. So she needs to up her game in the competitiveness if she's not there already. And I'm not saying she's not. And as far as walking into a room and the men looking at her and saying, "Oh, she's no competition because she's a woman," I think men do that with other men too. I think a guy will look at another guy and say, "Oh, I got him beat. I'm fine with this one," right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, there's a couple things that you're saying that I'm thinking about. The first thing is that the problem is that women still have a lower confidence. That's been shown in many different areas. When you have two individuals, a man and a woman, and they are equally trained, they both gone to the same school, they both gotten the same type of education, they both have the same capability when administered a test, the woman is not as confident as the man. There seems to be some, social norms, some ingrained idea in our minds that we are not as capable as the men. And these are really old stereotypes that are hard to shake. So what we want to do is we want to try to encourage women. And when I do teach a degreed program for future financial advisors at University of South Florida, and I have men and women in my class, and unfortunately I don't have enough women in my class. I'm trying to encourage more of the young ladies to choose this profession, but I do believe that while I'm teaching the technical aspects of this business, that I also have to try to build up their confidence and make certain that they understand that they really do have the skills. They are capable.
What's your opinion of that little girl statue facing Wall Street? I'm just curious.
I think it's great. It's the whole fearless idea there's this, part of having confidence, and what I tell a lot of the women that I mentor is sometimes you just need to have the courage. And courage is, when we talk about courage, automatically we're assuming that the confidence is lacking, because if you were completely confident, you wouldn't need courage. You'd just go and do it anyway. But what I'm trying to do is help them first build the courage to go out there, and then while they're out there doing their thing, they all of a sudden recognize, wow, I am doing it. I can do this. And that feeds that vicious cycle, or that vicarious cycle, I should say, of helping build their confidence so that they are successful.
So, I'm wondering about something, and as a teacher, maybe you can see this in your students. It seems to me, and this is just a presumption, it seems to me that men have been taught that you play by the rules, but if you find a way that you can cheat just a little to give yourself an edge, it's okay to cheat just a little. And I think women don't see that or don't agree with that. And I don't know that it's right that they cheat a little, and I'm not even sure if I can define what cheating means. But I think, for example, if you, give an unfair advantage to yourself, maybe by taking a client out to dinner or something like that. Is that part of the differences in the male and female cultures in the financial world?
Well, yeah, it's not even as nefarious as actual cheating. It's the idea that if a man knows something about a particular topic, he feels like he can kind of wing it and just make it up as he goes along, where a woman wants to make sure that she knows her stuff 100% in and out before she opens her mouth.
Yeah.
She's not going to be as comfortable just making things up. In my mind, though, that makes women very, very competent. And when you are able to get it.
That's what I'm thinking, too. And I hear you, and I think you're right. I think I do that. I think I'll go into something knowing 75% of something and figure out I can wing the rest of it. But you're right. Somebody who's studied it really completely would definitely be better prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I even just look at myself, and I know with all my education and all my background that it's taken me a while to kind of feel strong enough to say, I really do know what I'm talking about.
Is this part of what you deem the fifth wave of the women's movement coming out of the hashtag Me Too movement?
Well, okay, so those are two separate things. If we just talk about the Me Too movement and the whole sexual harassment thing, I have a little bit of a different take on that than a lot of other people do. And I guess I just really feel there's this issue of personal responsibility. And that the men would not continue to ask the women for this quid pro quo type of sexual exchange if women didn't participate. And so one of the things that I really feel strongly is that women just have to stop participating, and you have to make sure that you have your technical skills and your marketable skills all buttoned up, so that if in fact you are propositioned in that way, you can say, you know what, I don't have to deal with this, I'm out of here, I'm going to go somewhere where I'm treated with more respect. So I really I think this kind of Me Too movement, there's an element of it. We have all the law. There are laws in place that say that men are not supposed to do this, yet they continue to do it. And if women continue to participate, it's going to be very, very difficult to change.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a different angle on all that. When I start talking about the fifth wave of the women's movement, though, that to me is not just about women participating in the financial industry, but that's about women participating as consumers, as in different levels. So until women start participating in all aspects of financial decisions, whether it be at the home or at the workplace or in the community or in the world, they are not going to be participating in the biggest decisions, in the biggest types of things that we are doing in the world. I mean, all of these decisions that are being made, whether it be at home or whether it be in our world, all have financial components. And to the extent that women say, oh no, I don't understand finance, I don't like finance, I'm not going to be participating in that, essentially they don't have a voice. They don't have a place at the table. And so I really do believe that money, engagement in money, where you understand it, you're making decisions to help our world be a better place, until we start participating, we are not going to be equals.
Exactly.
That is interesting. The book is called Gender on Wall Street, Uncovering Opportunities for Women in Financial Services. It is written by our guest, Laura Mattia, and you have 5-star ratings across the board. And let me see if I can give you any information on the actual number. Not that it really matters, but I don't even see that on here. So the book just came out. Oh, okay, I see. It just came out yesterday, right?
I believe so. I actually don't have the hard copy in front of me either. So I think we are all waiting for it to actually be delivered. But
so if I look at an old book, my mom passed away several years ago, and I only just got around to cleaning up all the stuff, and I found some old books. She used to work. At ADT on Avenue of the Americas, or 6th Avenue, I think. I can't remember now. But she had all these books on how to do business. And I'm thinking at some point, some of the things that they tell women back in the day, which was in the 40s, clearly would be politically incorrect today. So, right? So, it just kind of puts you in a subservient place if you were a woman, basically, right?
Oh, things have changed.
Yeah. So this book is for the modern woman entering into the workplace. And does it do things equal out? And in other words, could a guy read the book and say, okay, this applies to me too?
Oh, absolutely. I don't mean to necessarily exclude the men. I'm just trying to give the women, a little bit of a leg up in terms of helping them strategically plan out their career. And, what I use tools that I've acquired through business, marketing, and even financial planning tools, and how they can apply to planning a career. And I started actually doing this for myself, but it all really started when I realized that I wasn't fully satisfied. I had a pretty high-level position in corporate finance, and people would say, "Oh, you're so successful, Laura," and I didn't feel successful, and I decided that I had been so involved in creating strategic plans for my businesses for the corporations that I worked for, that I would create my own strategic plan. And, starting out by defining what was really important to me, what were my values and what was my vision for my life, and how did I want my work life to play into that, and just building an overall strategic framework on what I wanted out of my career, and making sure that I had the technical skills, making sure that I worked on my relationships, which is one area where women really aren't very strong at, which is kind of ironic. We're supposed to be good at relationships, right? That's one of our top skills.
Well, yeah, but I think I understand, especially in the workplace. I have one question that's probably on the light end of questions. Let's say a woman enters the Wall Street world and is in the world of finance, and her partner is a man, and neither one of them are inappropriate. Neither one of them are attracted in that way, but they're really working well together, just as two women would or two men would, and they land the deal. They get the big deal they've been working so hard on, right? The difference, I'm thinking, is how they celebrate. The guy's going to want to go get some beer and a cigar, right? Is there a difference there in how we celebrate, do you think, when we land the big deal?
Sure. There's different, even when after work, when everybody goes out after work, or when people go out for lunch, there are differences in how men conduct themselves versus women. But I'm really trying to encourage the women that, no, this is a very important part of your job. You need to go out with the guys at work. You need to go out with your peers, with your boss. They're talking about all kinds of things that maybe don't interest you. Maybe they're talking about their last fishing trip, or they're talking about the football game, but they're also talking about business. And further, they're building rapport. So you need to participate. And what I find so many women do, they make a mistake because they have children at home, they have all these other responsibilities, and so they work through lunch, and, I don't have time to go out after work. I have to rush home to pick up my child from daycare. No, you don't do that. This is an important part of your job. You need to go out there. And that's one of the things that also scares me about the Me Too movement, is that women won't be invited to come out and be part of the group and build rapport. Women need to be there.
And you don't need to smoke a cigar. It's okay to be there.
You can if you want to.
You can if you want to.
Women do smoke cigars.
I've actually ordered a glass of water in a martini glass with an olive in it when I didn't feel like drinking.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. And I'm glad you brought up family in the mix, because I'm a family-oriented person. I work full-time. I raised 2 children, and I was able to have a balance.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and family plays a very important component. One of the things that I also talk about in my book, and I feel very strongly about, is a lot of people continue to say that the reason why there are not more women in finance is because of work-life issues. And that, I think that's very unfair, because what we see in, whether it's the medical field or the legal field or even pharmaceuticals or accountants, the women are participating in those fields. So why are they not participating in finance? And as soon as we say that it's all about work-life balance, basically what we're saying is we have no control over that. It's almost like a red herring, because now if we have no control over it, there's nothing we should do to try to make it easier for women to participate in the finance
But that should
industry.
Pick up the kids every once in a while. Yeah, that's what should happen. Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing. A fun conversation for sure, Laura. I found the book on Amazon. It's called Gender on Wall Street. You have a website, right? GenderOnWallStreet.com?
Well, either that, or you can even go to Women's Money Empowerment Network.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So thank you so much for having me.
Laura, thank you.
It was great to talk to you.
Thank you. That was such a good conversation. I appreciate the time you took to be with us today.
Okay. Thanks, Larry.
You're
Robin.
welcome.
Bye.
We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster. President Trump tweets, House Republicans should pass the strong but fair immigration bill in their afternoon vote today. It's not clear it has enough Republican support to pass, but Steve Scalise from Louisiana says,
this bill is even